For many Caribbean women, access to information about our sexual reproductive health is a very important topic. For this episode of Digital Tuesdays, we spoke with social entrepreneur and managing director of the Well Bermuda, Kristen Scott Ndiaye, about her organization's commitment to empower our Caribbean women in providing a safe space to discuss women's health. Hi, Kristen. Thank you so much for joining us for Digital Tuesdays. I'm very happy that you'll be able to share with us today, and for persons who are viewing on our Instagram page and YouTube page about your entrepreneurial journey. So just for our viewers and listeners, could you just introduce yourself to us and pretty much tell us who you are?
Hi, thank you. First, let me start by saying thank you so much for thinking about me and having me on Digital Tuesdays, Kayon. I am Kristen Scott Ndiaye, and I am the managing director of the Well Bermuda, which is a women's space here on the island.
Yeah. When I first saw that story, because based on our conversations, you mentioned, well, I saw where you said you wanted to have a space from an article I read where because of the pandemic, he didn't have the support that he needed. And this sort of was birthed out of that. But kind of give us a synopsis of how the entrepreneurial journey started before this point with the Well.
That's a great question. I think it came to light during the pandemic, but it was a deep-seated issue that was close to my heart. When I first came back to the island, which was about 4 years ago now, I think 3 years ago, we started to think about having our second child. And asking around, there were topics that came up like maternity leave and employment, what support there was there, and there was virtually none, which was a little bit scary. Mm. I myself was not prepared to take on the policies at that time. That's a lot in a privatized system to take on, but I did feel like there should be a way that we can build something ourselves.
Yeah.
A space that could have everything that we needed. Anything that you need, you can go to this space and find it, even if you don't know that you need it. Mm-hmm. So basically to find what you don't know that you need. In terms of when the entrepreneurial journey started, when I came to the island, I started work at the national newspaper here, which actually unfortunately didn't work out. Mm-hmm. But it worked out for me because I got accepted into a business accelerator that had just arrived.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning of the rest of my life.
Right.
They were, not only did they teach about how to find your entrepreneurial spirit, but it was all happening during a lockdown. So when our first lockdown happened, we learned how to pivot. We learned how to find drive through really, really tough times, learned how to connect, create relationships. And that's when it was really sparked, I think, to realize that this is where I was meant to be.
Yeah, it just amazes me in terms of the sort of what would I call it now? I don't want to use the word labels, but the titles that are coming out, especially within this digital age, social entrepreneur. Because one of the, I wanted you to say it, but one of the things that I was very excited about was the pitch idea, was you are pretty much creating reusable menstrual pads, which I think is tremendous, to be honest with you, especially when you take an in-depth look in terms of the products we use as women. A lot of times, everything consumer-wise is so targeted to us. and we don't really take an in-depth look to say, okay, what is it that I'm putting on my body? What is it that I'm actually using? So talk to me about that process.
Oh yes. That actually, that was on a whim. Well, the idea wasn't on a whim. The idea had been, again, this is something that was going on inside of me when I looked at what I was using and what was, how my health was going, and not just that, but the environment. So like the external factors of it. I started to sort of sweep out the things in my life that seemed superfluous. They just didn't seem like they were necessary, um, including all the things that were in my child's closet. Just when I thought about how I could make my life better, this was um, one of the things that matched up with the best. And there was a women's conference that was superbly done last year, done by Bermuda Economic Cooperation and Cooperation Development. And they had asked me almost the night before, would you like to pitch an idea? I thought, sure, this is an audience that you don't get all the time. And I thought, this is the only chance I have to pitch these pads and get a little bit of seed money.
Yeah.
And so I did. The night before, my husband took my daughter, and I was able to put my head down and create a pitch that somehow floored the audience. They absolutely loved it. And I absolutely loved it. I felt so good. I felt so good being in front of a women's audience, being in front of people who cared about this type of thing.
Yeah.
And that's, it was all downhill from there, really.
Yeah. I think as also in terms of having that support system, for anyone who is launching or, going full on in a business is just so important. And the fact that you mentioned your husband, it's a partnership, right? So
that's right.
If you want to share a little bit about that in terms of, both of you working together as it relates to building this sort of dream.
Yeah, I think it's important that we both have different skill sets. So he always says that I'm the creative one, and he builds me up that way. He just cannot believe that someone can have a creative mind. Whereas I think the opposite. I think, wow, I can't believe someone can be so logical. And in business, it actually works because he doesn't care about the vision. He doesn't care about building the vision in the sense that, he gives me creative freedom. And I tell him he doesn't have the ability to see it right offhand, but he knows and trusts now. We've done enough things together, starting with, decorating our living room. We've done enough things together that he trusts, and he pushes forward. He'll work on the finances, or he'll review the numbers and make sure that we're getting there that way. And then I can just repaint everything.
Yeah. That's awesome. Definitely awesome. Earlier where we were speaking, I mentioned that 15 or so years ago, there was a voice, there was an advocate as it relates to how women should have their authentic voice, especially with taking control of their bodies. How important is that particular notion or ideology is for you, especially with the Well?
Yeah, it's a really good question, because it is the essence, right? And you can see that. I don't even think I thought about it in that way. You put it so concisely. I always tell my daughter, it's a great time to be a girl. And I always look at her and I think, wow, it's a great time to be a girl. One of the things that I'm obsessed about, or two of the things that I'm obsessed about, is girlhood, because my experience was so intense as a girl. And when I speak to other women, it's usually the same. You know, you go through these phases,
Yeah.
and you don't even realize you're going through them. But the key aspect there that I felt was missing was education.
Mm.
I don't think we had education. I don't think our mothers had the education to be able to educate us on the phases of girlhood. And when I look at my daughter today, I'm thinking, wow, you have everything.
Yeah.
You have everything to be able to move forward as to be this powerful woman, because we had to work so hard to trudge through getting our periods, to trudge through our first heartbreak, and to trudge through. And while they'll still have to deal with that, they'll be better prepared and more empowered.
Yeah.
And I do feel like that's where we should be starting with the well. I happen to be starting at the planning, pregnant, and postpartum phase, but if we can expand it, because pregnancy, in fact, fertility doesn't start with, pregnancy doesn't start with fertility. It starts in girlhood when you get to understand your own body.
And the perceptions and all of
exactly
that.
Like this is my body, and I can do with it.
Yeah, I absolutely love. Well, I went through the website. Definitely going to put it up for our viewers to see. But it's just so well. It's simple but effective. You know what I mean? It's not buried under the language of, when you're reading white papers and you're like, okay, what is this? It's not stats. It's just so simple and very effective in the way how things come across. And one of the things I call it is the social safe space, where you can just be and just, even I'm not a mother, but at the same time, it's not just for mothers, it's for us as women to educate ourselves and to know exactly what other women are going through. And that brings me to another question: how important it is for individuals, whatever phases they are in their lives, especially for women, that the actual well is also there for understanding. So when another woman is going through something, you can offer that sort of support from the information that you have educated yourself about.
Definitely. And it's you see other women, but men are in the narrative too now. And so men, but anyone who is supporting a woman can come to the well. It is a place where care, community, and education are in abundance.
Mm-hmm.
So you can know, but not overwhelmingly so, like you said. You don't know what you don't know.
That's true.
Until you find out. So come to the well.
Yeah.
That's the idea. Yeah.
And one of the things, Christian, is that we can unapologetically just speak about certain issues and not feel ashamed.
Yeah.
There was a time where you really couldn't, and I've seen it, I've been through it, where you huddle with your girlfriend and you go that, but then it wasn't so out there within the social media space. What do you think about the fact that we're now embracing sort of openness and vulnerability as it relates to women's issues?
Oh man, I feel like it's leading the way for the next generation. Same as the women did for in the 1920s, for us to change what our lives were going to be. Mm-hmm. This is the change. This is the paradigm shift that our daughters are going to get to, our daughters and nieces and young girls are going to get to enjoy. And when I think right now, we're working with a branding partner to tell our story for Noemi pads. That's a part of the story, is changing the way people think about, or even say the word period, or say the word vagina. It's in any conversation that I have, I try and mention those two words because I want to normalize it. I don't want it to, and I still feel that people are uncomfortable, even women, they're uncomfortable hearing that. But it's a part of life, and it's where life begins. How can it be so uncomfortable?
Yeah.
You know?
That's amazing. Yeah. So I want to actually close this conversation with asking you, what are your three top entrepreneurial philosophies? Like, what is it that you actually live by? The business philosophy for you.
Yeah, I know this can be really useful. Really useful for entrepreneurs. And when I think about it, I'd say number one would be you have to give to get, and that's in all facets of entrepreneurship, social media, that's in relationships, money, anything. You have to give to get. That's one thing that I've learned, and I'm learning to do really well.
Give to get.
You have to give to get. It's a cycle.
Okay.
Nobody will give to you. I mean, they will give to you, but they won't give to you for long. You have to sustain those relationships.
Right.
The second, learn to be, I say this every day, do something uncomfortable every single day. Whether it's in life or in business, learn to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And the only way to do that is to do something uncomfortable every single day, whether it's running that extra kilometer in your morning run, or eating something that you just never thought that you would enjoy. Getting up when you really don't feel like it. Make yourself uncomfortable. And the third, go ahead.
No, the last one, because I'm loving these tips actually.
The last one. Oh gosh, the last one. That's fine. If it's for impact,
that's fine.
But know why you're doing it and let that drive you.
All right. Awesome. All right. Before we go, though, I should have asked you this. Could you just share with our listeners and viewers where can you be found? Social media handles, websites, all of that good stuff.
Yes, of course. So I can be found on, so my website is www.wellbermuda.com. That's WELL Bermuda.com. And the social handles are the same, at Well Bermuda, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much for joining us for Digital Tuesdays. Really appreciate it.
It was a pleasure.
Yes, it was. All right, folks. So ensure that you log on and get all the information that you need. I will be dropping all that information in the description below. So thanks again, and we will see you next time. I'm Kayan Vaz for Digital Tuesdays.